All right, we are live. So, welcome back, Anthony. You are one of only a handful of repeat guests here on Catalyst Talks. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joseph, and thank you for having me back.
Well, I'm honored to have you back. Since our guest last saw you, and you can go on the Google machine and type in Joseph Cops or Anthony Gantt, and you'll go way back into the early days of COVID when I was starting up this online series, just now figuring out how to get on to LinkedIn Live, trying to figure out how best to bring people together. And what I especially enjoyed about that conversation was just from a technical standpoint, how rudimentary it was. But now that we've got up and running, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So first of all, for people watching in, I've entitled this The Side Hustle, how to build on your ideas, your passion, that little thing that's nagging away. You've done that. So talk to us about very briefly the origin story of At Ease Rentals, because I think it's just fascinating. And then I want to get into some specifics because you achieved quite a bit since we had you on the show the first time. So what is At Ease Rentals and how did it come to?
You said very briefly, so I'll keep it short. Federal travel regulations do not allow vacation booking sites. So when I moved to Texas on the military,
vacation booking sites, you mean Airbnb? You mean all of them?
All of them, homeawayhotels.com. So when I came to Austin, I used one. I used Airbnb to be exact. And I turned in my voucher back to the Marine Corps after the end of the travel. And that's when I learned that the regulations prohibited. I didn't get reimbursed. And so I said, this is guys not smart. So what can we do?
You stung in the sense that you lost money from that?
Oh, yeah. I was totally surprised. I've done over 18 moves myself between trains. Was like supposed to be the last one where I'm going to transition to the civilian world, and I lost $1,200.
Ouch. So if you're watching live, if you've had your own PCS horror stories, or even if you're not in the military, you've had your own moving horror stories, drop them in the comments in the live questions, because I want Anthony to be able to respond to them. So that's the sting that you felt. That was the pain point as an entrepreneur. You said, surely there's a fix for this. So when you went looking for a fix, how hard was it to find what you were looking for?
It was like a needle in a haystack, but we were talking about the military, so it was even worse than that. It was extremely hard.
So what'd you do about that then? Everybody has problems in the day, problem with taxes, problem with traffic, problems with things. What made you different? What about your DNA for the viewers that are out there? What happened in your psyche that said, I'm going to do more than just complain. I'm going to try to fix this problem?
Well, I was like, I'm an officer, so things we do is we change regulations. So I started finding out who was in charge of the regulation and the policies, and I called them. Unfortunately, I wasn't the right rank of officer.
Yep.
So they basically told me to go pound sand somewhere. Instead of doing that, I kept reaching out to different agencies. I was fortunate to get connected to the GSA. And they said, hey, man, you've been hassling us for a while. Come up to Washington, D.C. We're going to have an industry day to talk about this. And when I got up there, I started asking the right questions. And I said, I can fix this. And to your point.
This is a part of your story that I forgot, that you went to the GSA. Basically, it was just an innovation day. They were reverse engineering their problems. Tell me a little bit more about that, because this show is all about innovation. What were they doing right that allowed you to do what you're doing now?
They had the corporate housing professionals who already have government contracts inside of a office. It was an 8-hour day where it was just talking about lodging for temporary duty. And they just said, hey, how do we aggregate this? How do we make it easier? What are the systems that we need to employ? How do we make you guys more equitable in the solution of providing listings and hospitality to our service members and our federal employees? And it just was so disjointed. And I just kept asking the right questions, like, how do we bring all of them together into an easy source? I was like, it is so hard to find any one of these people. If I'm not in Virginia, it doesn't make any sense. I was in Texas. What about the person in Florida? What about the person in Georgia? And they were just so disjointed and all over the place. And I was like, I can fix this.
You know, I think everybody, whether they're in the military or working government, working a big company, have stories similar to yours. Mine was on funeral detail when I was a second lieutenant. We were the C team, meaning they didn't trust me with A and B, but they had 3 funerals at one time. So I called the funeral office there on post that did all the taskings and said, hey, I'm number 3. uh, what happens if we have 3 funerals at once? I heard we only have 1 bugler. She says, yeah, one of the families will just have to stand around and wait. I'm like, wait a minute. Why don't we call 1 funeral home to come 15 minutes early, 1 funeral home to come 15 minutes late, and then we can have the bugler go womp, 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 and you only need teams A and B, which is easier for everybody. And she said, nope. And I said, the wrong thing as a second lieutenant, but great as an entrepreneur. I said, is there anybody else there I can talk to? And
right.
Oh, she got so mad. She went right up the chain of command and it came right back down on top of my head. But the entrepreneurial spirit started just like with you, with your journey of trying to fix that PCS, which for people that don't know what a PCS, that's a permanent change of station. So when the Army picks you up or the military picks you up and moves you. But you don't limit yourself to just the military. This is for other government employees as well. How's that work?
That's the same way as it works for the military. I found out the Department of State moves just as much, if not as much as us. And then when you look at temporary duty travel for like the civilians, that's corporate related travel for work. Everyone in the government's doing a lot of travel, especially during the pandemic. I saw a surge of federal employees having to be the ones to move and need places to stay because a lot of the hotels had transitioned to medical facilities for the hospital and their staff. So you had people who were looking for somewhere to stay that were without any kind of real lodging during the pandemic when it first started. And then it's continued on since.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moves, Nora is doing her move right now. In fact, she has always, last couple of months, been helping me with all these Catalyst talks behind the scenes. So I'm going to go behind the scenes for a second to pull something up here in a minute. In the time that I'm doing that, take the listeners and the viewers through all the success that you've had. You've won multiple awards. Mark Cuban has been in your thread recently. Start wherever you want, but don't leave anything out because you've had a lot of great success.
Okay, so at the start of things, we were fortunate to get picked up with the pre-accelerator in Austin called DivInc. Had a phenomenal time going through that, learning a lot. We were able to refine a lot of our business processes and procedures, which helped us get into MassChallenge, which is another accelerator here locally in Austin and Houston. And through MassChallenge, we were very beneficial to learn, to meet a community of individuals who understood what we were doing and make the right connections and build a network to help us establish our business. And we were fortunate to get to the semifinals when we did our pitch competition and ended up winning the gold prize, which was a $25,000 non-dilutive cash prize, non-equity as well. We're also raising funds via a crowdfunding platform out of Houston, Next Seed. And to date, we've raised about $270,000. So we're super excited about that. Recently, we were awarded the Active Duty Business of the Year by the Rosie Network. For those who don't know, the Rosie Network is a huge player in the military space, especially for military spouses. We've been able to forge very key partnerships with companies in the vacation rental space like Rental United, which is huge for us because it's going to give us access to over 32,000 listings in the U.S. Other awards, we participated in the Black Men Talk Tech Veteran Military Challenge, where again, we won first place in that pitch competition, won another $5,000, and we participated in the Hofstra Veteran Venture Challenge, which is a competition between 12 other veterans. We placed third, and then another non-dilutive, non-equity cash prize of $12,000. So we've been able to not only grow our business in terms of revenue, but also been able to stay afloat and keep money coming in with operating expenses from the different pitches that we've been able to win.
Yeah. So the topic about today, at least the way I untied it, was the side hustle. That's what I did in the early days of Ride Scout. I was still serving active duty by day. By night, I was exploring this idea of how to build this company. I got permission from my chain of command to do this because some people are like, but it's very similar to somebody who has their own Etsy page, somebody that does their own woodworking that they sell on the weekends. So for you to be able to balance this side hustle, so regardless of what day job a person has, a side hustle is tough. So what are you doing to balance all that?
What I do to balance it is read books and, PT. So I get my balance from being with my Marines, like you said, still active duty. Ask my commander if I can do this as well as a side hustle. Did the same thing you did, the XC, Amazon. Hey, sir, it's the same thing. It's on the internet. So we made a deal to where I won't work during the day. I'll just go and do Marine Corps in the day, and then by night I'll do this. So I just lose sleep. I said I'll sacrifice a couple hours, And for me, Joseph, the funny part about it is, since I've been deployed, you've been deployed, you know, you lose sleep in deployments. I said, why not lose sleep doing something that's going to help me for the future?
Yeah. In fact, the military just released a sleep study correlating how often you are burning the midnight oil or going 1 or 2 days with, 3 to 4 hours of sleep with
Hmm.
a very scientifically studied amount of caffeine through coffee that you have to have. It's a pretty fascinating study. I recommend anybody check it out. As for me, I think it's pretty simple. I just nap. I, try to get 7 to 8 hours every night. And always try to remember that anytime you work out or drink or eat right before going to bed, that'll screw you all throughout the
Hmm.
night. But I'm glad you brought that up because that's a tip of entrepreneurship of how you manage to do a lot of things. So for some entrepreneurs, they're going to eventually leave their day job and make that side hustle permanent. What's the decision criteria that you have for what you're thinking about when you might do that?
So my decision criteria for switching over to full time is how many people we can actually employ, and actively start paying on a continual basis. We are very adamant and deliberate about who we want to hire initially, which are military spouses and veterans that are in the space and understand the language so they can be culturally competent, and being able to pay 5 of those employees and then see that there's revenue left over for me to start taking on a salary as well and replace my Marine Corps salary.
Well, that's a noble way to do it. And as I tell people, do not quit your day job. So we got somebody here on LinkedIn that just popped in that says he's got a great idea for his own business startup. I'll just kind of hit it here real quick.
Hmm.
Been trying to reach me on Facebook, Twitter, brought it to my attention. Strong investor, local business, several searches. Let's start with you. All right. Well, so I don't quite understand the company yet, but I appreciate you there Impucci Global Limited making the comment. But I'm going to ask you, Anthony, similar
Hmm.
to what their comment was there in LinkedIn. And by the way, for those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube, you can ask questions as well. But they're asking about how you reach out to and connect with potential investors, potential partners. How do you answer that question of how you have gone about in your journey?
I study who I want to talk to first. It's just like anything you do in life. When you want to meet a person or you want to meet and you want to be a part of an organization or an entity, you go out and do the research and see if that's the right fit for you, if the culture, the values, and the personality of that investor is going to fit what you're trying to accomplish. And then I see who's in my network that might know them and look for an introduction. Or I'm real brazen, so sometimes I'll look for what city and state they're from, and then I'll go on certain government pages and find the address and write them a handwritten letter.
Okay. So here's what you said that I want all entrepreneurs, small business owners, people in sales to key in on. You said you're doing the research, you're finding these people, and then that is, your homework. In the military, they call it intelligence preparation of the battlefield.
Hmm.
Never
IPB.
walk anywhere where you haven't done at least a map reconnaissance. And that's what just
Absolutely.
drives me crazy when people just assume I have created the world's greatest left-handed football bat, and I will now sell it to everyone because it's got to be perfect. Well, of course not. You got to do discovery. You got to figure out where the market is. And then I love your point about doing your homework on the people that you want to meet later on going down the road. So I've got my own ideas of how to do it. What are
Hmm.
your ideas and what are the tools that you've used to be successful doing that?
I see in a question the person that has Angels List. I used Angel List. I've used Founder Suite. I've used LinkedIn. I use Google. Google and the different search engines are real good for you to use. You type in the space and the industry that you're looking at, and Crunchbase is also good too. And when I say I study it like, take an example, Airbnb. I went back to see who was the first investment and went back and saw who was a part of that investment, if the information is there. And then I go into their LinkedIn profile and I go through that profile and say, what school did they go to? What companies did they work at? Did they have any kind of affiliation with the military or travel or anything? And just dissect it. Like you said, intelligence preparation of the battlefield.
Yeah, I love that. That answers the question, how do you meet investors? That's really what it comes down to in terms of, hey, David Halls, if you're watching live, I'll call you back. He's probably just messing with me. He likes doing that. Anyway, it's this idea of you meet the investors through warm introductions that you find in the exact method you just described. Crunchbase, AngelList, LinkedIn. I'm a huge fan, especially of LinkedIn, but you've got to package it nicely, like you said, with the other websites, and then find that mutual connection, find that warm introduction. And that's how you're going to figure it out. I think one of the things that he said, tried calling, phones are probably the worst way to contact anyone right now.
Yeah.
About your smartphone, but my smartphone now separates between phone calls that I do know in my contact list and those that aren't in my contact list. They just don't even go out. It just doesn't connect.
So the how do you meet investors? They'll meet you, whoever this person is, Global Limited and Pucci. One of the things I found out that works with a lot of investors is Twitter. I almost said Twister. Twitter. If you go to Twitter and start following people and then add them and hashtag them, they will actually start looking at seeing why you added them and hashtagging them, because they're people. They want to see what's going on. You like their post. And if you get a warm introduction, cool, but you got to just keep grinding. I don't think you should be on the investor chase. I think you should be on the business chase and figuring out how to make the business more relevant and going out to get more customers. As you get more customers, more investors will start asking you to send their pitch deck and send your pitch deck over and information. And like I told my team, I was like, our number one priority is not like going out and finding investors. That's my job as the founder and the CEO. Our job is to go get more customers. And since we're a marketplace, that means get more listings, and that means get more people booking and get more listings and get more people booking and get more listings and get more people booking. Yeah. Everything else is an afterthought.
I've had a lot of fun over the last 10 years since I started Ride Scout of helping entrepreneurs. And some of them just don't get what you so beautifully describe, which is, let me focus, the CEO, the co-founder, let me focus on the investor side. We just need y'all's help as a team to build a business, build something that people want. I don't care if it's the world's sexiest left-handed football bat. If nobody wants to buy it, we're screwed as a business. So first of all, thank you for saying that. That needs to be said every chance. The other thing that I'll tell entrepreneurs, especially at the early stages, is if you ask for money, you're going to get advice. You ask for advice, down the road, you might get some money, because what those people want to see is that you're willing to learn and grow. What are your thoughts or stories on that example?
See, I'm fortunate. I'm coachable because the military forced me to be coachable. And the only way you can be a good leader is to be a good follower. So one of the things that I've been able to do is get advice from people like you. I think a couple of Saturdays ago, Joseph, you called me and said, hey, I want to give you a quick debrief on your LinkedIn post that you just had. It was good, but it can get better. So as soon as I got that information from you, I went, absorbed it, and immediately pushed out a post following what you shared with me. And then I tagged you on it and said, how was this? Right. So that's me taking that advice and employing it and seeing if I learned from what I was being taught. I love to learn new and different things. And when somebody's teaching you something to help you be great at success, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and you can leverage it right now and employ it immediately, do so. Now, I know some people say, don't take all advice. You know, there's too much advice. But you got to be able to.
You have to synthesize. That's what I'm hearing you say. You take in all the advice, then you just synthesize it to your own personality, which I think is key. The authenticity is so often forgot in the discussions about leadership, about entrepreneurship. People think, well, I've got to be just like this person, or I've got to be just like Kendra Scott or Steve Jobs, or they model themselves after that. And I caution that, because even though I say all the time, people will be what they can see, it's important to know that you are yourself.
Absolutely.
That is the key. So have you seen examples or stories or times in your journey where people have tried to push you to be something that you're not? And how did you react?
Not in the entrepreneur space. Well, I guess so. They tried to tell me how I should pitch the company and I should sound more like this and do more like that. And I was like, yeah, but that's not my story. I said, I have no clue why they came up with that type of pitch or why they even said that that's how they're doing it. I was like, it has nothing to do with me or the people I'm talking to, and it doesn't resonate with our business. So like you said, you have to be authentic and true to you and the company that you're building. So we just stay focused on our core values, which we, took a whole lot of hours to come up with, but staying true to that is our guiding light, and that's our true north.
Yeah. Shady, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. Send any questions that you might have. Shady is a good example in this community of, as you say, following your true north, staying on track, but building that ecosystem around you. You mentioned several different groups. DivInc is a great example of building community. Bunker Labs, for me,
Excellent.
was one of the very first things, because for a military vet entrepreneur 10 years ago, I didn't have what you have today. Now, by the way, I'm not jealous. I'm happy for you. I want your journey to be easier and let that grass be beaten down for that path to follow. With respect to Bunker, what has it been like? And just briefly describe for those that don't know what Bunker Labs is and how you've used those tools in the toolkit.
Right. Bunker Labs is a nonprofit organization which helps military affiliate personnel, whether you're active duty service member, veteran, National Guard, reservist, military spouse, dependent, whatever. And if you have an idea where you're looking for that extra and that help to get it past just an idea and start a business, write a book, whatever it may be, that's an ecosystem in the community that comes together. They have the Bunker Lab online, where you can go out there and you can start engaging the audiences or other veterans, other mentors and people they brought to the network to help you. And then outside of that, they have other programs like Veteran in Residence, which I was fortunate to be a part of back in 2019, early 2019, with people like Shady, Ian, Sabrina, and Jonathan here in Austin, as well as yourself, Joseph. And you create a community of 10 different veteran-owned companies or military-affiliated companies, and you just bounce ideas apart, against each other. What I loved about it is brutally honest, right? Everyone there that I was with in that cohort were veterans.
Sugarcoat it. Doesn't do you any good anyway.
No sugarcoating. They told you if your baby was ugly, it was ugly. And
your baby was never ugly.
It has some ugly parts to it, so we had to miss the potato head.
You've grown and learned, but keep going about that honesty piece.
And then they also have the CEO Circle for those who've made it to the next level to get the mentorship from key CEOs in that area, Austin being one of the locations. So you get a network of individuals that you can connect with. What I benefited most from the Bunker Lab community was having that veteran cohort, and then the communities that they belong to, Capital Factories and the WeWorks and all of these different Galvanize, and going to these different events and getting out there and put myself in the position to meet more people, to meet people who can tell me where I should be thinking, how I should be thinking, and what I should be thinking about just in the space overall. Well, so it's been a huge benefit.
I think you've answered Joey's question here, which is he talks about the fact that it's difficult to know when you're ready to start executing. I think these groups that you just described provide that incubator, that laboratory. I mean, if you keep getting told every one of these places you go on stage and whatnot that your baby is ugly, you probably ought to think about, giving your baby a bath. What do you think about answering or responding to Joey's question there?
Joey, starting to execute, it's going to be on you, right? You got to know when you're ready to take that leap of faith. For me, I did a lot of research before I actually went out and said, okay, starting to move it. And I got beat up a lot in a couple pitch competitions where they'll say, have you made any money yet? And I was like, not yet. And then it's like, oh, this guy's an entrepreneur instead of entrepreneur.
Can I interrupt real quick to tell you
go for it.
Example of an early pitch competition? I trained so hard to get ready for South by Southwest 2020. I had my 3 to 5 minute pitch, whatever it was, down to the second. I could deliver it like it was natural. I was all ready, got up on stage, boom, did it. Soon as it was over, the panel moderator guy goes, and now we'll go to question and answer. I didn't know there was question and answer. That's how junior I was. They were asking me really good and hard questions that I had to just answer honestly about what I did and didn't know. So anyway, so go back to your experiences early in the pitch days, getting out there and executing to respond to Joey's comment.
No, that's exactly what you said. You don't know what you don't know. So if you're looking to start executing and figure out how to iterate the business and get better, and if need be pivot, you just got to start. You got to start. It's the same thing as when we all began to walk. You didn't know when you were ready to walk. You just started walking, right? You just let go of that edge and just started going out. So let go of the vine and go.
Yeah. I mean, so what I take away from that, and, I'm going back and forth. There's people asking questions. If you're afraid to move forward, that's understandable. If you're afraid to ask people for help, okay, I kind of get that because some people are too proud to ask for help. But Benjamin Franklin said it best, and I just read this recently in Eric Qualman's book on the Focus Project. If you ask people for help, it in some way starts to endear them to you because now they feel like they're investing in you. That's why entrepreneurs like yourself, I love helping you when I'm able, because you keep asking, you want to know, you keep asking. And by the way, you and so many other entrepreneurs strike that right balance between asking for help and not being so constantly demanding of time or question that you lose interest in whoever it is that's helping you. How do you
Absolutely.
get to that point about how you think about helping and reaching out?
I look at how I would want to be approached. And like you said, time is the most valuable resource that we have. So I don't want to impose on people's time. And what you said is right. If you just ask for help, it kind of endures folks to come over to you and try to help you out. And it's something that's simple. You got to know what you're asking for before you ask it. One of the things I would, hey, Philip, happy Veterans Day. Thank you. One of the things I just say is, can you help me? And then I'll say, and here's what I need help with. I already know what I've researched, and I've come to a roadblock, and I was like, I just don't know where to go after this. I'll give you an example. Someone was asking me something as to how do you make this defensible, and how do you de-risk what you're doing? And I was like, I don't know. So I went researching on defensible and de-risking within the space I'm doing, and I was like, okay, I kind of understand this and that, but I don't think I have the right answer. I don't know where to look to make sure I get this answer totally packaged. And then I said, hey, Shady, can you help me? And Shady was like, do with what? And everything was packaged in there, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. And then so we sat down for a 3-hour meeting where she grilled me. And Shady doesn't play. She's tough nails, right? Tough as nails. And we just went through it. By the time I came out of that 3-hour session, though, I was ready with the answer and whatnot. So thank you, Shady. And she's a military spouse. So to her husband, happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, as well as Sabrina, who we watched yesterday do a masterful job of interviewing Mike Sorelli with his new book, The Talent War, which by the way, for those of you listening live or hear this later, get that book now on Audible or eBooks or directly, good old fashioned hardbound. The reason why is it speaks to the fact that we have a talent war, meaning that there aren't enough people to go around for all the jobs that we have. And there are big companies that are really pulling in that talent from oftentimes the military and veterans. And Phil Denton, thanks for tuning in here on Veterans Day. Appreciate the shout out. But what that book speaks to is that we do learn a lot about teamwork and values and how to follow the mission and how to, persevere. But what's interesting, though, is as we all start to grow our companies, it's hard to find talent. So how do you find the talent, or how do you ID it for later growth that you're going to have in your company?
Well, I took the advice of my mentor, who's here locally, Brian Sharples, and I was like, how did you go about finding talent when you were building home away? And one of the things he said is hire slow, fire fast. And what we do is first we figure out what we need help with, then we find out who is the person to help us with. Because I think sometimes people hire the person and then find out the what. So we kind of figure out what it is that we need help with, then go on looking for the talent. Then our pool of talent, like you said, we reach back to federal employees that are now retired or out of their position. We reach back to military service members who are transitioning out of the service, who've already transitioned out. And we look at military spouses. We also look at a lot of these college students who were undergrads getting ready to graduate or just recently finished grad school. And it's like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's a great pool of talent. In fact, I've got to go over my shoulder here, point to the University of Texas, where I've got a special assignment right now as a special advisor for the new president, Jay Hartzell, who wants the world to know that the University of Texas is a world-class partner and destination for our military, veterans, and their families. And I just love the fact that you're already looking at that and thinking about that. In fact, in the early days of Ride Scout, 3 or 4 early employees of the team were University of Texas graduates that I had in my Army ROTC detachment that went into the Guard or Reserves and had opportunities to help. So, okay, well, I could just sit here and talk to you literally all afternoon. It's Veterans Day. You're the only thing standing between me and a beer right now. Let's help distinguish for Veterans Day for folks that may not know the nuance. So there's 3 days that I refer to. There's Memorial Day for those that have fallen, Veterans Day for those that are out of uniform, and then every other day of the year for our serving military in the Guard, active, and reserves. You're still active duty right now, so thank you for your service. But what does Veterans Day mean to you, and what do you want the audience to take away?
So you just said it, what Veterans Day is for those who have already served, those shoulders which people like me stand upon. So I would say to you, Joseph, thank you for your service, because if it wasn't for people who came before us and forged this position to allow me and my fellow service members to still active duty to be able to hold the line and be on the watch, we wouldn't be able to say Happy Veterans Day. So you stood the watch, and now we're standing the watch. So I want people to understand that's what it means. For veterans, they've already stood the watch, and now it's someone like me who to stand the watch in their place. And then the second thing, Joseph, for Americans, I think what we saw this last couple of weeks, where so many people participated in the electoral process and went out and voted. For veterans, there's no other way to say thank you. You got to understand, when we go out and we pledge our allegiance to the Constitution, and we say, hey, I support and defend the Constitution of the United States against foreign enemies, foreign and domestic. We're saying that the ideals that exist in that document are so that the American people can go out and live freely, happily, and in accordance with that Constitution. And one of those things that they get to do is to go vote. So this Veteran Day, even though like you said, I'm not a true veteran just yet because I'm still serving, it was especially special to me because I saw so many people cast a vote.
What a perfect way to end the discussion. My guest today has been Anthony Gantt. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you, Joseph. Happy Veterans Day.
Take care.